They captured a ghost. They just didn't know it yet. The twin suns of Vardex 9 sank beneath a red-gold horizon, casting long, angry shadows across the desolate plains. Sand twisted like smoke in the wind, whispering over ancient bones, relics of forgotten war. Above it all, the massive outline of the Galactic Empire's mining outpost loomed like a wounded predator, its towers bristling with antennae and turrets. And just beyond the perimeter fence, barely visible against the shifting dunes, a lone figure crouched in the dust, unmoving, watching. He had been there for 6 hours, breathing slow, pulse measured, every breath calculated. His eyes tracked every patrol, every sensor sweep, every drone rotation. He was waiting for a blind spot, and he almost had it. Then came the shriek of thrusters. 3 Empire skimmers dropped from the sky like vultures. No warning, no broadcast, no negotiation. They surrounded him in a V formation, plasma rifles raised, floodlights cutting through the dusk. He didn't flinch. He just closed his eyes and muttered, "Damn, that was fast." From the lead skimmer, a towering figure stepped out, 9 feet tall in jet-black command armor laced with silver filigree, 4 glowing eyes, breathing through a mask that hissed with every exhale. Commander Chirac of the Outer Rim Extermination Corps, known for burning 5 colonies to ash and never taking prisoners. Yet here he was, walking toward the crouching man, face unreadable behind that breathing mask. "Identify," Chirac demanded, voice deep and clipped. The human slowly raised his hands. No sudden movements. No fear. "I'm unarmed," he said. "Calm. Flat. Just passing through." Humans don't pass through restricted zones. "You're trespassing." "I was never told this rot belonged to anyone." Chirac raised one hand. 2 troopers lunged forward and slammed the man to the ground. His cheek hit the dust. Hands yanked behind his back. Bindings clicked tight. No name tag. No insignia. "Civilian scum," one trooper sneered, but the commander tilted his head slightly. Something was wrong. The prisoner's breathing. Too steady. No panic. No begging. No resistance. "Search him." Another trooper knelt and began scanning. No weapons. No implants. No ID chip. He paused, frowning. "Wait!" Scars. Numerous dermal reconstructions. Old bullet wounds. Wrist fractures. Knees show impact trauma. Chirac's eyes narrowed. He's been in battles. The human opened one eye from the ground and smiled faintly. "Your scan missed a worse one," he said. Before the trooper could respond, the prisoner rolled his shoulder, dislocating it, popped, and twisted his torso, nearly slipping the bindings. 2 troopers dove back, startled. The human didn't try to escape. He just sighed. "I was hoping you'd ignore me," he said. "Could have saved a lot of lives." Chirac stepped forward and placed a boot on the prisoner's neck, grinding it down. "You're lucky I don't kill you right now." "No," the man whispered. "You're not lucky at all." 30 minutes later, Interrogation Base 6. The cell was ice cold, designed for discomfort. No light, no sound, no point of reference. Just a floating cube of steel and humiliation. Inside, the human sat cross-legged on the floor, humming to himself. A lullaby, maybe something ancient from Earth. Outside, a security analyst named Donex watched the live feed. Subject is strange. No signs of psychological distress. Breathing is optimal, almost meditative. Commander Chirac paced the hallway, fingers twitching. He should be panicking. Civilians don't behave like this. Perhaps it's suicidal. Chirac shook his head. No, he's too focused. Run deeper scans. Genetic markers. DNA overlays. Neural structures. On it, Commander. But as a scan result began to pour in, the analyst's face slowly drained of color. "So, you will want to see this." Classified military file. Fragment recovered. Name, Cross, Nathaniel J. Rank, Gunnery Sergeant. Unit, Earth Colonial Marines, 3rd Recon, Ghost Company. Designation, Scout Sniper, Black Tag. Kills confirmed, 412. Last seen, classified, Operation Nightglass. Status: presumed KIA, missing 6 years. Chirac stared at the profile. His military. More than that, sir, the analyst said. Ghost company. They are not even supposed to exist. Off books. Deep insertion kill teams. Sniper? Chirac asked. Scout sniper. Black tag. That means. I know what it means, Chirac snapped. It means we've made a catastrophic mistake. 4 hours earlier, rewind. Cross had approached Vardex 9 with intent. He knew the risks. He'd studied the patrols, calculated the weak points. But what he hadn't accounted for, what burned him up inside, was how sloppy the Empire had become. Too much power. Too many years without resistance. They didn't recognize a soldier when they saw one. They didn't even frisk him right. His retinal stims were still online. His oxygen-boosted blood chemistry, still functioning. His implants, off-grid but active. They assumed he was trash. Good, because that meant they wouldn't realize their mistake until it was too late. Back in the cell, present moment. Chirac entered, flanked by 2 guards. He stood in front of Cross, who remained seated and staring up. Gunnery Sergeant Nathan Cross, Chirac said. Earth Colonial Marines. You've been off the grid a long time. Cross blinked. So, you found the file. You were presumed dead. Let's keep it that way. Chirac's breathing deepened. Why are you here? Cross smirked. Wouldn't you love to know? Chirac drew a thin blade, ceremonial, but still deadly. He knelt and dragged the tip across Cross's cheek. Blood welled up instantly. Cross didn't flinch. I'm going to enjoy peeling the secrets from your spine, Chirac growled. Cross leaned forward, whispering, You're already on the list. What list? You'll see. Chirac stood and stormed out. Prep him for transfer to the Oblivion Fang. Deep cell. Maximum security. As they dragged him away, Cross walked willingly between 2 armored troopers. His wrists were bound, his face bruised, but his mind was calculating. Every corridor turn, every vent position, every guard's gait and breathing pattern. He was already 5 steps into Phase 1, and as they hauled him toward the shuttle, he looked up at the looming shadow of the Empire's flagship in orbit, the Oblivion Fang, a vessel with over 700 crew, a war machine feared across 19 star systems. It would be his hunting ground. Final scene, aboard the shuttle. The lights dimmed as they locked him into the transport harness. The trooper beside him leaned in. You look awful calm for a dead man. Cross looked at him, cold, focused, then smiled. Son, I'm not the one who's dead. The shuttle's engine roared like a caged beast as it tore through the atmosphere, cutting a white-hot trail toward the stars. Inside its armor belly, Gunnery Sergeant Nathan Cross sat shackled in carbon titan restraints, flanked by 4 heavily armed Empire troopers, each twitchier than the last. The interior stank of recycled air, sweat, and nervousness. One trooper kept checking his sidearm. Another wouldn't meet Cross's eyes. They were right to be afraid. The Empire hadn't built a prison cell that could hold Nathan Cross. They just didn't know it yet. He sat perfectly still, eyes half-lidded, posture relaxed, like he was on vacation. But his mind wasn't quiet. No, it was moving fast. Too fast. Calculating pressure points. Timing blinks. Mapping exits. Testing every sound, every delay in the shuttle's hum. He felt the pitch shift subtly, orbital entry. 20 minutes until docking. The Oblivion Fang awaited. A vessel that had flattened fleets, broken rebellions, erased cities. Perfect. Cross didn't need open fields or freedom. All he needed was walls, corridors, doors, places to hide, places to kill. And most importantly, fear. The Empire had forgotten fear. He was going to reintroduce it. The trooper on his left, a younger recruit, pale-skinned, fidgety, glanced over. What were you doing down on Vardex? He asked, his voice tight. Cross turned his head, just slightly. That dead-eyed sniper stare made the kid swallow hard. Ghost hunting, Cross said. What? I went looking for a ghost. Turns out it was me. The trooper didn't speak again. The shuttle jostled as it latched onto the Fang's docking clamps. A hiss of air. The long metal moan of pressurization. The doors opened. The troopers stood, weapons drawn, eyes scanning. Cross was pulled up by his arms, boots scraping against the deck. The moment he stepped into the Fang, he smelled it, antiseptic, ozone, and something was stagnation. Too clean, too confident. This ship had never known real war. That would change soon. As they marched him through the holes, soldiers and officers leaned to get a glimpse. A prisoner, a human, unusual, but not impossible. Still, something about the way he walked, like the restraints were just formalities, made them uneasy. They passed the command console. Cross noted the display pattern. 3-second loop, minimal delay. Weak. He saw a vent above a control panel. Narrow, but climbable. He saw an officer with an unlatched sidearm. Sloppy. Every hallway was a potential battleground. Every light flicker, a countdown. He was led into a solitary cell deep in the underbelly of the ship, cold and gray. A single slab for a bed. Transparent barrier field for a door. Cameras in the corners. The troopers pushed him inside. "Welcome home," one sneered. Cross smiled. "Make sure you remember my face." "Why?" "So I know who I'm killing first." The guard laughed, just once, then walked away. Cross sat down on the slab and closed his eyes. 2 floors up, in the command observation deck, Commander Chirac was already watching. He hadn't slept. The name Nathan Cross had haunted his thoughts like a shadow with teeth. He reviewed the footage from the arrest. The dossier again. The expression on the prisoner's face. Relaxed. Too relaxed. "I want hourly checks." He barked at the bridge crew and assigned a drone swarm to monitor every movement in the detention deck. "Sir, we already have." "Double it." Across the galaxy, the Empire had conquered species, shattered fleets, and silenced rebellions with a wave of a hand. But it had never captured a Ghost Marine. And now they had one locked inside their flagship. Also, they thought. 32 hours passed. Cross didn't eat. Didn't sleep. Just waited. He studied the camera pattern, blinked with every loop. He timed the energy pulses of the barrier field. Watched the cleaning droid schedule. Watched the air vent flicker as cooling units cycled every 11 minutes. They'd made 2 critical mistakes. 1. They thought a sniper needed a rifle. 2. They thought a cage could outthink him. At hour 33, the droid entered his cell. Small, harmless, hovering. Cross shifted on the slab. As the droid passed by, he moved fast, a flick of his arm, a sharp twist. He ripped a panel from its undercarriage, yanked its core, and slid a power wire. Smoke hissed, but there was no alarm. The camera had just blinked. In 10 seconds, he had a coil, 2 microservos, and a high-voltage arc line. Enough. He sat back down. Another hour passed. Then, the lights dimmed to simulate sleep cycle. Doors sealed. Patrols halved. And Cross stood. In a blink, he was at the cell's back wall, jamming the arc wire into the energy field regulator. The barrier fizzled, flickered, and died. No sirens. He was out. The first guard he encountered never saw him. Just a faint whisper of boots, then a sharp crack as a man's neck turned 90 degrees the wrong way. Cross dragged the body into a corner and took the uniform. Not a perfect fit. Close enough. 1 deck up, he used the stolen pass card to access the weapons hold. It wasn't well guarded. It didn't have to be. Who would be foolish enough to escape on a ship this size? He walked in calmly. Walked out with a silenced bolt rifle, a field knife, 2 flash disruptors, and 1 detonation puck. Time to hunt. The first kill was quick. A sensor technician, walking alone through the maintenance corridor. The knife found the soft spot under the helmet. Cross caught him as he fell, propped him against a wall like he was napping. Second kill. A security officer, distracted by his wrist terminal. Bolt to the base of the skull. No alarms. No screams. With every body, he moved deeper. Each time, he adjusted the gravity sensors, crippled the lights, slowed the doors. Bit by bit, he was shaping the environment into his terrain, one that whispered fear. He began to leave symbols in blood. A crescent with a slash through it, the Ghost Company mark. The Empire had erased the unit from records, but the symbol remained in certain nightmares. By the end of hour 35, 6 were dead. The internal system started to notice anomalies. Doors not responding. Sensors glitching. Energy drain in the detention deck. Commander Chirac was alerted. He stormed into the control hub, eyes blazing. Why didn't the field report the breach? Unknown, sir. The logs show everything normal until now. You think he walked out? He might have. Is a ghost marine, Chirac roared. He did walk out. They activated Protocol Red, lockdown mode. But by then, Cross had already reached the ventilation system, already crawled through 10 meters of ducts, already memorized the engineering deck map from a stolen datapad. He wasn't running. He was positioning. Chirac summoned his elite guard, 4 cybernetically enhanced brutes, each the size of a tank, eyes like lava. Find him. Hunt him. Do not let him reach command. I want him dead. But Cross wasn't heading to command. He was heading to the ship's heart, the AI Nexus, the spine of the Fang. He found it guarded by 2 drone sentries and a technician working alone. He moved like smoke, silent and precise. One flash disruptor fried the drones. The technician toned, confused, just in time to meet a rifle barrel between his eyes. Cross didn't fire. He just said, "Tell your commander, I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me." Then he pulled the trigger. The technician's body slumped to the floor, twitching once before the lights in his eyes went dark. Cross crouched beside the terminal, wiping the blood from his knife with a precision that bordered on reverence. There was no time for celebration. This wasn't victory. This was setup, momentum. He moved to the AI Nexus interface. A dense matrix of crystalline conduits wrapped in coils of data thread wiring pulse in time with the ship's power core. The entire vessel breathed through this room. Command routes, oxygen filtration, door logic, even gravity stabilization. Cross pulled a microspike from his belt and slid it into the terminal slot with practiced ease. A flicker. The interface responded with a cold, flickering glow. Coded prompt racing across the display in a dead language only the Ghost Marine still remembered. He began rewriting the ship's nervous system, door overrides, light cycles, camera loops, auto-patrol dead zones. Every command was a needle into the brain of a beast too bloated to feel pain. 3 minutes later, the Oblivion Fang was no longer an Empire warship. It was a hunting ground. Cross sealed the lower decks. Cut power to Section 14. Reverse stairlifts in Deck C so they spun into deadlock. The map of the ship was his chessboard now, and he was flipping it. Footsteps echoed. Heavy ones. He turned just as a slab of a man burst into the room, 8 feet tall, skin reinforced with grafted armor, eyes glowing red. One of Chirac's elite brutes. The man roared and charged. Cross didn't blink. He spun sideways, grabbed a coil of cabling from the wall, looped it around the brute's arm mid-charge, twisted, dropped his weight, and yanked. The giant crashed sideways into a pillar with a force that dented steel. Sparks flew, but it wasn't enough. The brute roared again, wrenching free. He swung a fist that cracked the wall behind Cross as he ducked under it. Cross rolled, kicked the brute's kneecap sideways, heard the satisfying crunch, and jammed the blade of his field knife upward under the chin, straight through the skull plate. It took 3 seconds for the brute to stop moving. Blood dripped from Cross's knuckles. His ribs ached. His breathing was shallow. But he was alive. Barely. He limped out of the Nexus, vanishing into the shadows like a vengeful ghost. Sirens began to wail. Not standard alerts. Something sharper. Confused, as if the ship's own systems didn't recognize the noise. Somewhere on Deck 2, Commander Chirac listened to the alarm and knew. This wasn't a containment breach. This was war. Give me full internal override. He barked to his command techs. I want infrared sweep, DNA trace, sound triangulation. Hell, scrape the walls for breath condensation. Find him. But the systems glitched. Every command they entered delayed or looped back. Hallways locked randomly. Elevators reversed mid-route. Rooms flashed between lit and blackout. Is inside our ship, one technician whispered. Chirac's eyes narrowed. No, he is the ship now. Elsewhere, 2 squads swept the engineering corridors, stacked in standard formation, flashlights cutting through steam. One of them, a lieutenant named Veer, was sweating beneath his helmet. "I don't like this," he muttered. "He's baiting us, moving us into choke points." "Shut up and hold position," the sergeant growled. Then the hallway lights died. Silence. A footstep behind them. Too late. A flash. Cross dropped from the ceiling. The first man didn't even turn before a bullet slammed through his temple. The second screamed, and the third fired blindly. Muzzle flashes lit up a corridor like strobe lightning, but Cross had already moved, low and fast, rolling through their legs, grabbing a dropped rifle mid-slide. He shot one in the back, elbowed another in the throat, then used the falling body as a shield against the forced panic barrage. Bullets tore through the body shield. Blood sprayed the walls. Cross leapt forward. Knife! Neck! Silence. Veer was the last. He raised his weapon, hands trembling. "Don't," Cross said. "I'll shoot." "You won't." I will." Cross stared him down, calm, blade dripping red. Veer's arm sagged. He dropped the rifle. "Why?" he whispered. Cross stepped in close. "Because your war was never with us. You're going to kill me." "No." Veer blinked. "Tell your commander I'm not here for escape. I'm here to erase him." Then he vanished into the dark. 10 minutes later, the corpse count reached 23. Deck 3 security collapsed entirely. Chirac stood in the center of the command bridge, hands clenched, trembling, not in fear, but fury, pride bleeding from his armor. He'd underestimated the human. No, not a human, a weapon. He activated his private link to the bioforge below the med bay. "Release Project Harrow," he said. The officer on the line hesitated. "Sir, Harrow hasn't been tested." "Do it. This end tonight." Within the hour, the ship's lower levels began to shake with something unnatural, a sound like wet claws scraping steel, breathing that echoed like thunder down the vents. Cross heard it. He was in the weapon hold, rearming. He froze, turned, a vibration in the wall, a sharp scent in the air, copper and acid. They'd released something old, something wrong. He checked his rifle. 3 mags left, 1 frag. No regrets. He headed toward the med bay, slower now, rifle raised, every step measured. Then he saw it. It stepped from the darkness like a man-shaped shadow stretched too far. 8 feet tall. No armor, just skin pulled tight over steel bones. No eyes, just a smile carved into its face with rows of rust-colored teeth. It tilted its head. "Narton!" It hissed. Cross fired. 3 rounds slammed into its chest. It staggered, then smiled wider. It moved, so fast. He barely rolled aside before it ripped a gouge in the floor where he'd stood. His rifle spun away. He pulled the knife, slashed upward, cutting into its jaw. The thing howled, slapped him sideways into a wall. Stars danced in his vision. The thing lunged. He yanked the frag and jammed it straight into the monster's open mouth. It swallowed. "Chew on that," Cross muttered, and rolled backward. The blast cracked the corridor in half. Smoke, fire, screams. When it cleared, the thing was still standing. Burned, broken, but smiling. Cross was already gone. He didn't need to win here. He just needed to bleed it. As the ship spiraled into chaos, with patrols slaughtered, alarms glitching, power surging and dying at random, a quiet message pinged the edge of Imperial space. A beacon, uncoded, short, 3 words. "Fang has ghosts." No one traced its source. But somewhere on a moon base, a retired Ghost Marine got the message and started loading his rifle. The Oblivion Fang bled from the inside. Deck 4's lights were dead. Emergency strobes pulsed in erratic rhythms, painting everything in blood-red flashes. Power conduits sparked from ceiling panels. Bodies, some torn, some burnt, some missing heads, lay scattered like broken toys. The air stank of ozone, hydraulic fluid, and something far worse, fear. Commander Chirac stared into the fractured command display, jaw clenched, eyes hollow. His elite guard was gone. His surveillance network, corrupted. His flagship, once a symbol of imperial dominance, had become a haunted machine. "His dismantling us," said Lieutenant Orc, voice thin. "1 man, like a virus. "He's not a man," Chirac muttered. "His retribution." Somewhere beneath them, Nathan Cross moved like smoke. His body screamed with every breath. Ribs cracked, leg bruised, a deep gash along his side wrapped tight with a stolen medical patch. But his mind was sharper than ever. He'd pushed himself past the pain, past the noise, into that rare, cold place only a few warriors ever find. The place where purpose outweighs blood loss. He wasn't done yet. He stood at the edge of the lower reactor conduit, watching steam hiss from ruptured valves. The residual heat turned the narrow corridor into a furnace. But he didn't flinch. He was waiting, listening, and then he heard it. Footsteps. Not boots. Claws. Project Harrow. The creature moved with unnatural patience now, its earlier rage tempered. It had learned, adapted. It was no longer hunting to kill. It was hunting to understand. Cross gripped his last mag tight. Armor piercing. Gen enhanced. Not enough. He checked the detonation puck strap to his belt. Still active. It would have to do. A shadow passed across the steam. Then a voice, soft, curious, and utterly inhuman. "You were made for this, like me." Cross said nothing. "You're not here for escape. You're here for vengeance." Still silence. "I remember now the stench of your kind, the way your bullets tasted." It stepped forward, skin cracked with burn scars, its synthetic veins glowing faintly beneath the surface. Its left arm was gone, replaced with a torn conduit pipe sharpened into a jagged blade. Cross raised his rifle. "You talk too much." He fired. 3 rounds slammed into the creature's chest. It staggered, but didn't fall. It smiled. Then it charged. Cross threw himself sideways, letting the creature crash past him into the wall. He turned and sprinted down the corridor, weaving through pipes, ducking low. The thing followed, louder now, snarling, its blade arm gouging sparks from the walls. He led it in circles, down into the waste recycling system, through the coolant chambers, past the gravity core. Each time, it chased faster. Each time, it got closer. Until finally, Cross reached the maintenance shaft above the central coolant reservoir. A long drop, 10 meters down. Then darkness. He looked back. The thing was already there. "I've killed men better than you," it hissed. "You've never met one." He dropped the detonation puck behind him, kicked it toward the creature, then jumped. The puck exploded. The shaft roared with fire and shrapnel. Cross fell through smoke and landed hard on the grated floor below. His leg gave out, pain blinding. He rolled, gritted his teeth, forced himself upright. No sign of the thing above. Maybe dead. Maybe not. He moved. 2 decks up, alarms finally cut out. The ship groaned like it was waking from a nightmare. And someone else, someone the Empire had long forgotten, entered the system through a hidden port buried in the ship's long-dormant code. A message blinked on Chirac's console. "Ghost Company, Alpha status acknowledged. Retrieval en route." Chirac stared. "No," he whispered. "They're extinct." Auric leaned in. "Who are they?" "The monsters we buried in the dark. The reason we erased the Earth War logs." "What do we do?" Chirac closed his eyes. "We burn everything." He initiated Protocol Omega. Across the ship, a new signal surged. "Self-destruct. Countdown. 30 minutes." But the command didn't execute. A second signal spiked from deep inside the network. A virus, fast, elegant, and angry. The destruct system froze. Locked out. Cross. The entire Fang belonged to him now. Chirac grabbed his sidearm and left the bridge. He had one last play. Meanwhile, deep in the ship's abandoned crew wing, Cross pulled himself into an old drop pod bay. Dust and grime covered the blast doors. These had been sealed since before the ship left the outer colonies. But one pod wasn't empty. It had been left behind. Inside, strapped to the walls in sealed foam, a ghost sniper rig, an exact match to Cross's own. Black steel, low reflection finish, curved suppressor. The rifle he'd trained with in the Arctic ruins. The weapon that made him a legend. He touched it like it was a memory. Then he loaded it. Outside, the creature stirred again. Half dead, burning, but still alive. drawn now not by anger, but by understanding. The hunt was ending. Cross stepped into the hangar. Wide space, long lines, nothing to hide behind, just distance. Perfect. He crouched behind a crate and set the rifle on the edge, waited, and then movement. A twitch in the far shadows. A breath. The thing stepped out, limping, one arm twitching. It looked around, and cross-fired. The bullet snapped its head back. Still moving. He adjusted, breathed. Second shot, right knee. The thing collapsed. Still crawling. Cross stood, walked. "You should have stayed a lab rat," he said. The thing looked up, grinning through cracked teeth. "I was born in your war. You made me." Cross raised a rifle point blank. "Then let me unmake you." He pulled the trigger. Silence returned. He stood for a moment, listening. Nothing but the distant thrum of reactor coils. Then he turned, only to see Commander Chirac standing at the hangar door, blood on his uniform, pistol in hand. "I didn't think it would end this way," Chirac said. Cross raised an eyebrow. "Thought it'd end with me in a box." "No, I thought I'd never see one of you again." He raised the pistol, but Cross was faster. One shot, straight through the wrist. The pistol clattered. Chirac fell to his knees, groaning, clutching his shattered arm. Cross stepped closer. "You were never the real threat," he said. "You just fed the machine." Chirac spat blood. "You can kill me, but the Empire—" "Will learn," Cross interrupted. "One way or another." He turned, walked to the pod bay, and opened the manual control. Behind him, Chirac tried to rise. Cross didn't look back. The pod door hissed open. He stepped inside. As the chamber sealed, he keyed in one last command to the ship's console from his wrist. "Download complete. Purge initiated." The AI screamed as it burned. The Oblivion Fang's lights flickered, then dimmed. Systems crashed. Auto firewalls ignited. Decks shut down like a dying heart. And Nathan Cross launched into the void, leaving a graveyard behind. 20 minutes later, a black dropship emerged from stealth on the edge of the system. No signal. No lights. Inside, 4 soldiers in gray armor sat in silence. Their insignia, a crescent with a line through it. One of them spoke. Signal confirmed. Cross is out. The pilot turned. "Does he need extraction?" The soldier shook his head. "He doesn't need anything." Nathan Cross drifted alone through the void. The drop pod spun silently, tumbling end over end, its thrusters long dead. Inside, oxygen held at 27%. External temperature dropped by the second. Hull integrity, questionable. But Cross wasn't panicking. He was waiting. He knew ghost extraction wasn't a promise. It was a gamble. Sometimes they came. Sometimes they didn't. That was the rule. You don't always make it home. And if you do, you don't ask why. You just keep your rifle close and your ghost closer. He sat back, the cracked interior dimly lit by blinking emergency LEDs. His rifle lay across his lap, and he could still feel the phantom heat of the Oblivion Fang, the chaos he left burning behind him. One man, one mission, one warning to the Empire. Ghosts don't fade. They linger. His comm crackled. A tight, low-frequency pulse. Call sign Grim 2. Confirm. Cross leaned in. Alive. A pause. Coordinates locked. Dust inbound. He exhaled. Slow. Etta. 3 minutes. Hold tight. He leaned back again, closing his eyes briefly. But his mind wasn't at rest. It never was. Behind the lids, old wars played like broken film. Smoke, fire, screaming orders. Earth, Titan, Rhiannon Drift. The places they tried to erase from the logs. But the blood didn't forget. 3 minutes passed. The dropship appeared from nowhere. No engines. No light. Just darkness made solid, breaking the stars with its shape. It caught the pod in its mag field and pulled it in like a predator reclaiming its own. Cross stepped out onto the cold deck. 4 ghosts stood there, weapons slung, helmets off. Eyes that had seen too much. They didn't salute, didn't nod. They just made room. The one at the center, older, scarred, ghost white hair shaved to the bone, spoke first. "You did it." Cross shrugged. I made a mess. Good. The older ghost held out a datapad. Cross took IT to IT, showed a live feed, Empire High Command in chaos. The Oblivion Fangs blackout had triggered a sector-wide alert. AI fragments had leaked into Empire servers, corrupting protocols. Systems glitched across dozens of ships. Mistrust bloomed like a virus. Commanders shot their own techs. Panic fed panic. The rot had begun. Your data payload was precise, the ghost said. Clean. Loud. They are chasing phantoms now. Thought the Empire was unshakable. You shook it. Cross nodded once. What's next? The ghost's eyes narrowed. Now we burn the roots. They turned together and walked deeper into the ship. The corridor lights adjusted to them, shadows bending around their movements. Ghost ships weren't like any other military vessel. They felt alive. Silent metal, wrapped in black polymers and antiskin lattice, with tech stolen and evolved from a dozen civilizations. Built not to win wars. Built to end them. The war room came alive as they entered. Holoscreens pulsed with Empire ship movements, neural maps, intercepted data fragments. At the center, a red sphere, the Empire's most secure data archive, buried beneath the surface of a shielded moon. Designation Carriers 5 to their real target. The Oblivion Fang was a distraction, a demonstration. Cross was a match, but Carriers 5, that was a powder keg. Your mission isn't over, said the scarred ghost. This was just your entrance. He tapped the screen. We're sending you to the core, deep in the archive vault. We need confirmation of Covenant Echo, the Imperial Bioresearch Directive that created Project Harrow and others like it. Once we have that proof, we bring it to the net. Public. Unstoppable. Even they can't hide from the truth once it's seen. Cross stared at the display. His eyes didn't blink. When do we drop? Now. The ghost nodded, and alarms rippled silently through the vessel. A new pod prepped in the launch bay. Not for survival. No. This was a one-way round with teeth. Cross approached it, armor sealing piece by piece across his body. Matte black plates. Fiber weave muscle augmentation. HUD synced. Heart rate steady. No ceremony. No prayer. He just climbed in, locked the harness, and clenched his fists. Target locked, said the pilot through comms. Releasing in 3, 2, a roar silence, and he was falling again through cold, through speed, through fire, straight toward hell. Carriers 5 rows below him like a scarred god. The moon's surface glistened with obsidian armor, shielded towers, orbital batteries, all pointed out, none expecting anything to come from above so fast it could punch gravity in the mouth. Cross's pod hit atmosphere. Antiskin flare released. Pod shell burned off at T 500 meters. It cracked open like a meteor shedding its skin. Cross burst out in freefall, cloaked, diving straight into the night. He hit the surface hard, rolled, came up firing point 2 guards dead before they knew. He slid behind a comms dish, jammed a virus spike into the uplink, shut down exterior alerts for 30 seconds. That's all he needed. Long enough to sprint through the breach, drop 2 more inside the outer gate, and vanish into walls like a myth. Inside, Kara's 5 was cold. Sterile. Perfect. Perfect for dying. Though he moved past labs, sealed archive rooms, data cores humming with encrypted horrors. Surveillance floated above like glass eels. But he wasn't detected. Not yet. He reached the vault entrance point 10 inches of reinforced titanium. DNA lock. Neural handshake. He jammed the override spike in, and waited. The system fought him. Denied. Then slowed. Then unlocked. He slipped inside, and there was a single chamber. No lights. Just a low blue glow from a server heart the size of a tank. Inside it, a glass cube of data. Covenant Echo. Proof. He walked up, placed the second spike, started the extraction point 30 seconds, and footsteps. He turned. Commander Shirak, alive, armor scorched, eyes filled with hate, a plasma pistol in one hand, and something else in the other, a detonator. You think you win, Shirak said, breathing hard. You think truth matters, but we built the Empire on blood. You can't shame a ghost. No, Cross said, but I can make it scream. Shirak pressed a trigger. Cross tackled him. They hit the ground as the vault shook, but only partial detonation, just a lower level. A desperate move. They fought brutal. Close. No words. Just fists and blades. Cross took a stab to the ribs. Gave back one to the throat. Chirac slammed him into the wall. Cross broke the pistol free and fired twice into the commander's chest. Chirac staggered, then slumped that IT was over data transfer. Complete. Cross limped to the terminal. Sent the package to the ghost ship then, with blood dripping from his armor, he set the rest of the charges. This archive wouldn't survive the night, and as he walked from the vault, smoke curling behind him, alarms wailing, fire licking up the walls, he didn't look back minutes later. From high orbit, the ghost dropship watched as Keras 5 erupted into a silent blossom of red and gold.no survivors.no secrets. Just fire. Inside the ship, Cross sat slumped in a medical chair, eyes barely open, body cracked but alive. One of the ghosts stood nearby, watching the feed. "You think this ends it?" the ghost asked. "No," Cross rasped. "Then why?" Cross looked up, voice hollow but cold. "Because someday a kid in a mining colony will ask why his sister was taken. And someone will have an answer." He leaned his head back, and they'll know someone made them pay. The ghost nodded once. Nothing more needed to be said. Outside, the stars kept turning. And the Empire, for the first time in centuries, began to bleed. Not from fleets, not from armies, but from one man. One ghost, still out there, still watching, and still not done.